Hello, I'm Maciej Mikos and you're watching World Talks. Who can blame Ukraine for wanting full strategic independence? After all, it's smarter than all of its allies or enemies. It has stared down Russia and will defend Europe for some time to come, writes Diane Francis, senior fellow at the Atlantic Council, in her latest article. And to discuss the latest from Ukraine, we're joined by the author herself. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
So it's Vyshyvanka Day in Ukraine today, a holiday designed not that long ago to promote Ukraine's folklore. And it's already the fourth year when Ukrainians celebrated but despite the ongoing Russian attacks on the cities. Now, could this be the last such year? Has Ukraine finally gained an upper hand in the war with Russia?
Well, I really believe, and my sources say, and my friends in Ukraine say, I think they are at a turning point. They really believe now that they have in hand the means of absolutely stonewalling the Russians and possibly pushing them back, making them give up. There's no progress being made by the Russian troops. And the turning point, I think, really came when Ukraine said, you know what, we can't let Europe and America veto us from long-range missile attacks against our enemy when they're bombing the heck out of us. And so that has made all the difference. And because it's a very talented bunch of people, they have now built the biggest military-industrial complex in Europe. And they have long-range missiles, they have long-range drones, and they are about to roll out their own long-range ballistic missile. So this is a turning point, and they're bombing the heck out of Russia now. And of course, it's starting to show in the economic numbers. Russia's exports, their oil industry, they're really causing damage.
Well, Ukraine obviously concentrates its long-range strikes on Russia's military and energy facilities. But recently, drones can be also seen in Moscow's, in the very heart of Moscow, and then reaching the Moscow's apartments too. Now, do you think that the psychological pressure on Russia's civilians can finally lead to proper peace negotiations? Or will they rather mobilize the society against Ukraine and result in a broader support for Putin's war effort?
Well, I don't know how Russia works. I think the people are quite, under the thumb of the regime. It's a brutal regime, and the gulags are full of people that even called it a war. So, expecting much out of the Russian people isn't my idea of what's going to happen. However, they have to be already very upset and probably worried. Not only is the odd drone hitting an apartment building in Moscow, but in the suburbs of Moscow, St. Petersburg, and other large cities, there are huge plumes of fire and smoke arising from drone and missile attacks by Ukraine against their military-industrial complex, against their oil industry to stop them from making money by selling oil abroad and so on. And this is inescapable. And of course, the other thing is that all Russians now are in the dark. They don't have internet service. And this is very upsetting, too, because it does disrupt commerce, it disrupts banking. And I think there's got to be a lot of unrest and nervousness among the Russian people because Ukraine has finally taken the war to them.
Now, in your latest article, you write that, quote, Ukraine must mobilize another 100,000 ahead of an anticipated Moscow summer offensive. But I'm wondering whether the government in Kyiv, which is already under pressure over the recent corruption scandal involving former and current officials as well, can they do it? And should the government look for these additional soldiers in Ukraine or rather abroad?
Well, I think they're going to be looking for them both at home and abroad. Look, it is an extremely unpopular conscription effort. I mean, they're grabbing people from the streets and they're making them join up because they were hiding from joining up. This is very unpopular. Nobody likes to see this. But on the other hand, what I'm told now is that the tide has turned in Ukraine to the point where people are just happy that their government is doing as much as they can by bombing Russia and also, staying the course. If you say that, I'm told that if in conversation in Kyiv you say maybe we should give up, people will call you a traitor to your face. Ukrainians' blood's high. They're upset. They've put up with this. And, and the government has been, had to deal with the timidity of the European Union and the stupidity of the Trump administration in not helping it do what it needs to do and giving it everything it needs. But they are capable and they are doing it. And I think it's really going to make a difference.
About the timidity of EU. Well, Europe is still debating who should be its envoy for peace talks with Russia. Now, what do you think about this unusual casting?
Well, Gerhard Schroeder was a traitor. He sold out to Russia. He set up the pipelines, the Nord Stream. He made millions. He hangs out with Putin. He was the first choice. Second choice was Merkel, who was his puppet. So that's absolutely unacceptable. And that's another example of the fact that Europe, because it's not a country, it's a committee of countries, has been really behind the ball when it comes to support and taking tough decisions that have to be made. And, and after all, they're being defended by Ukraine, which is pretty unfortunate. However, I must say a bright light is the new leader of Hungary. We got rid of the traitor Orban, who was in bed with Putin. And now you have this young man, Magyar, who's anti-corruption. And he now realizes that Hungary is also, like Poland, right on the border with Ukraine. And he's really saying all the right things about helping Ukraine. So that's some good news. Finally, we got rid of Orban.
Now, apart from that, the latest study shows that some 1.5 million Ukrainians have returned to their homeland last year. Well, despite the ongoing war, now, how would you explain this phenomenon?
Well, I don't know, whether they were males of conscription age who went back, in which case I would call them heroes, or just families reuniting. Remember that after the attack in 2022, the government actually encouraged the evacuation of women and children from the country because of the war. They didn't know how severe. They were at the doorstep of Kyiv. So that's when this huge influx of people came into Poland and have gone all over the place to get out. I don't know why they're going back, but again, I think this may be another indication of what I perceive as a major turning point psychologically among Ukrainians. They are going to win this war. In how well they're going to win it and in what manner, who knows? But they seem to be more committed than ever, and the government is not taking no for an answer. And now they're really going after the bad guys.
Right. We've begun by you saying that Ukraine will finally get its ballistic missile. And in your article, you also suggest that Ukraine could already be in possession of a weapon of mass destruction. Now, could this be the very reason for Ukraine's daring strikes reaching the center of Moscow? That, in fact, the two warring states are in a sort of a stalemate and a possible Russian nuclear retaliation against these attacks on governmental facilities would result in the Ukrainian A-bomb being dropped on Moscow. So, well, is this what you suggest? Because this scenario seems rather improbable at the moment.
Well, I don't know whether there is a nuclear program, but I know that the Ukrainians were probably most responsible for Russia's Ukrainian atomic bomb program, because the Russians are not good at this kind of thing. They were the Silicon Valley, and they were also the Manhattan Project of the Soviet Union. And so they have the expertise. They were asked to give up their nukes, and now we have this invasion as a direct result of that, frankly. And I would say that between expertise, a change in attitude, and the fact that Russia is a nuclear power, I guess, I'm just guessing, I'm speculating that there is a nuclear program underway in Ukraine. I don't think they have a bomb. I don't know. I can't prove it. But what I do in the piece is I speculate. I mean, why wouldn't they do this given that? Now, on the other hand, Russia dares not drop any nuclear weapons on Ukraine anytime, because I think it's been made very clear to them by the United States that will result in a major catastrophe for them. The United States will not put up with anybody dropping an atomic bomb, and certainly not Russia. However, I do speculate that the Ukrainians have been developing an even stronger arsenal just in case.
I guess that would be also a crossing of a red line for China, the main sponsor of the Kremlin of late. Diane Francis, Senior Fellow at the Atlantic Council, was our guest this evening. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And thank you for watching, and stay with us for more interviews here on TVP World.